Yeah, hi. There's not a lot of boxing action going along. I mean, considering pre-COVID, certainly. But we get bored. We get bored, and so I was just wondering, who are the ugliest boxers ever? And that's at any level. Now, one of the typical guys that's spoken about is called Leon Spinks. I don't think he's that ugly. I really don't. It's just because he had no teeth, and a huge smile, and it would accentuate the fact he had a huge gap between his teeth. But I don't think he's that ugly, so I think that's a bit unfair. So he's definitely not in my top 10. And I'm not choosing top 10 now, by the way, but I'm putting some people out there. Okay, what about Ricky Hatton? Now, Ricky Hatton is one ugly, disagreeable-looking man. I mean, is he a decent boxer? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a hater. I mean, about pale skin, but he's got this kind of mongoloid type face, this kind of window licker type face. Hatton is definitely up there in the ugly people. Next, Rigondo, he's been a world champion. He's from Cuba, but he's got this kind of huge skull shape, and he looks about, 75. Black guys usually age pretty well to skin, I mean, but he looks like a different species, man. Jaime Munguia, I think that's the right way to pronounce it. So this guy looks like another guy, a mongoloid. He looks like he is definitely a window licker. He probably lacks an IQ of over 70, maybe 65. He's not a bad fighter, but he definitely looks retarded. So Munguia has to be in the mix. Let's also look at the old school. There's a guy called Eugene Criqui, right? A French guy, a world-class fighter. And he got half his jaw blown off by the Germans in World War I, but it didn't leave him looking very good looking, if you know what I'm saying. He's not pretty, but, come on, you can't be too hard on him. He's a war hero. Next one on my list is Nikolai Valaev. Now, this guy is no oil painting. He's got this huge head, like one of them statues on Easter Island, I think it's called. And his huge head, it's like a fridge. And it's not a pretty head either, Strangely, he ended up finding a wife, and he reproduced. His wife's like 5'4", and he's 7'4". It's a bit creepy. It's a bit weird. But I like Valaev. Is he ugly? Most definitely. Is he the ugliest? He's definitely up there. Right. And next, we're looking at a woman boxer. Because, you got to be inclusive these days. So why not include a woman boxer? So Ann Wolfe. Now, she's retired for a few years. She was a premier women's boxer, which doesn't mean anything at the time. She knocked out this really tall, weird white woman. I can't remember her name now. She was also ugly. And Ann Wolfe, she looks like I don't even mean, but she looks like a man. She looks like James Toney, So Ann Wolfe has to be in the mix. Then there's, talking of James Toney. James Toney is not exactly an oil paint himself, he's a great boxer, his style, all that stuff. I'm sure he did okay for himself, well, within limits. But the weird thing was, I remember when there was meant to be a muted fight between Nigel Benn and James Toney. And Tony, he was quite funny. He's a funny guy, man, until he became completely punch drunk. But he was like saying, "Yeah, all British women are so ugly anyway. I wouldn't want to go there." It's quite funny, but British women are not the best when it comes to white women. That's for sure. But, you know, the top 10% are actually pretty hot. But for James Toney to say that when he's that ugly was a bit cheeky. We have he's one of my favorite boxers to a certain extent. Yeah, Prince Naseem Hamed. I mean, he's a fool. He's 5'4". Yeah, he always looks tired. You notice that his eyes, they always look tired, and he had these teeth that were like about every tooth was like a centimeter apart from the other tooth. He looks like a kind of cemetery when he opened his mouth. But he got that fixed up. But I can't. Yeah, is he ugly? Yeah, most definitely. And now he's fat, going in and out of cafes, you know, eating food, becoming fat. But I still have some kind of. I still remember the days when Hamed was entertaining and fun. But yes, he is ugly, no doubt. So we want to go back to include old school people. Primo Carnera. Primo Carnera was from Italy. He's like one of these guys that had gigantism, I think. You know, so his limbs and his face grew out of step with normality. He's kind of the Nikolai Valov of the day. He became heavyweight champion, but he was not very good. You know, yeah, he's not pretty. He's not pretty. You know, he's not Errol Flynn. But is he on the top ones? I don't know, man. It's worth discussing. And there's a Mexican guy now, Daniel Zaragoza. Daniel was, I think, a multi-weight champion. I may be wrong. But, you know, this guy was... he looks like a warrior in some ways. So, you know, he's not that disturbing. But he's not... You wouldn't call him handsome, put it that way. He's got this kind of chunky face that looks like it's been attacked with an axe. But do I think he's a top one? I don't know, man. He's in there, but it's up to the comments, man. Now, obviously, you know, I'm an equal opportunities man, so I have to bring in some more women. There is a former world champion contender called Valerie Mahood. Now, this is one of the ugliest biatches I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, obviously, you know, I mean, I can't imagine a single man would want to sleep with her, which doesn't matter because she's an open rug muncher. But, I mean, look at this thing. She has to be there, but I don't like to recognize women's boxing because it's whack. You know, the quality is so low, but, you know, she has to be in the top 5. Next we have, I don't agree with this one, but I've heard people say that Joe Frazier. Muhammad Ali said Joe Frazier was really ugly. He obviously he's not that handsome. You know, he can't really, compared to Muhammad Ali especially. But you know what? He had some style. He could dress really well. You know, he had a character. And that can take you away from ugliness. So, I remember he wore a lime green suit. I think it was in Rocky, one of the Rocky films, and I thought he looked cool. So I think he overcame his ugliness, you know. And I don't think he was as ugly as Ali would say. Okay, who else? So, okay, this is a bit more random. A guy called Ebo Elder. Ebo Elder was a white guy from America, right? And his name is not Igbo Elder, it's something else Elder. He changed his name to Igbo because apparently the Igbo tribe in Africa decided they'd rather die than be taken in slavery. And so he was very, he was very moved by that warrior spirit. And he was a warrior, but he's very ugly. He's got like a head like a light bulb, you know, that really big dome. And he should definitely be considered in the ugliness stakes. Next on my list, I've got Iran Barkley. Again, I'm not I'm not that happy about it. He obviously, he's not exactly a matinee idol, but he's very tough looking. He's got character and charisma. Iran was also a very tough, respected boxer. He's also a street guy. He ran some street gang. He was also generous with his money, so I can't. It's hard for me to criticize him. He's not. He's not as good looking as say Carlton from, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but but I like Iran. I don't like to include him in this. Right. So a couple more. So we got there was this Mexican guy. I can't remember his name. Was it Rafael Angulo? Something like that. He wasn't that necessarily ugly, but he had some disease where he's got all these white patches on his body. And you could say, well, was that man? So what? Well, I mean, I'm sorry, man. You don't get women going, oh, you know what I really want? I want a Mexican-looking guy with patches all around his body which are white, so he looks like a cow or a giraffe or something like that. This is not possible. And I think if he got his skin condition cleaned up, he wouldn't be on this list. But it's not a great look. And then we got Mariusz Wach. Mariusz Wach is this, I think he's Polish actually, even though I think the name is German. And he's a fringe level world operator. Generally, everyone on the top will beat him up. He's got this huge chin, man. Like, it's huge. It's like an anvil. It looks like it cannot be destructed. It can be because he's been stopped. But he's not exactly, as I said, the epitome of what a good-looking man would be. Another Russian, Denis Lebedev. Denis Lebedev is a great fighter. He knocked out Roy Jones. He knocked out a few guys. He lost a couple of high-level fights. He's got like a hair lip. And I think he was in the Russian Marines or something like that. So he looks pretty dangerous. He looks like the kind of guy who would torture you to death. But there is no doubt that he is ugly as sin. Some people say Julian Jackson is ugly. He's got a strange face, a very wide nose. I quite liked his flat top though. He was obviously a huge puncher, but that's not about looks. I think he looked different. I wouldn't say he's necessarily 100% on the ugly tree. So I think that's a bit unfair. Now there's a guy from the UK called Billy Hardy. He's a ginger guy, yeah, and I don't get this hatred of ginger people, there's actually, they've raised their game. The ginger people have raised their game. There's a lot of good looking ginger people now, and they used to get a bit of haterism, but it's not just that. He's got these massive ears. He's only 9 stone. But I read on a forum that he has in his possession a huge tool. So maybe he made up for it with his big wanger. So, but Billy Hardy is definitely no oil pain, man. So a couple more. Another woman, because I believe in diversity, It's very important to have diversity. And this is a black woman, Claressa Shields. Now, she's allegedly the top woman boxer ever or whatnot. And, looks apart, I think she's weak. Women's boxing is weak in depth. But Claressa Shields looks to me like Michael Nunn, the ex-IBF middleweight champion, with a wig, but more muscular. And finally, to be considered is Chris Eubank. Now, Chris Eubank, this is senior. Chris Eubank Senior has got this huge head as well, these huge nostrils, a receding hairline, and a stupid look in his face. But on the other hand, he's very charismatic, you know. He dresses very well, which is probably a way to cover up his ugliness. But he dresses well, you know. He speaks fairly well. So yeah, I mean, he definitely should be considered. He's very ugly. This huge dome of a head. It's like an igloo, a brown igloo. But he kind of makes up for it in personality. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what everyone else thinks. Please hit up the comments and say who is your ugliest fighter. For me, off the top of my head, I got to think Valuev, Hatton, Zaragoza, Valerie Mahoud, just awful looking. They are definitely, and Billy Hardy, big tool, you know, notwithstanding. But yeah, tell me what you think.